If I knew what I knew now 5 years ago before I quit my job to sell beats full time, I would have saved years off of my life and found success that much sooner. Now, I can't go back, but I can give you the 10 lessons that I learned along the way so that you can save time and not fall into the potholes that I did myself. And if you don't know who I am already, 5 years ago, I quit my job during a global pandemic and went full-time as a producer. Later on that year, I was on the Billboard Top 100. The next year, I became a platinum selling producer. And just the beginning of this year, I won a Grammy Award. So if you don't have 20 minutes to avoid 5 years of mistakes, by all means go and watch Netflix. But if you have more than the attention span of a goldfish, then let's hop into the video. And if you want one-on-one help to sell $1,000 beats without YouTube or posting any content, you can book a free call. The link is in the description or the pinned comment. Now let's hop in. Lesson number one, you're growing fast, but in the wrong direction. And so I'm sure you have had this thought before where you think to yourself, if I just sell beats at a higher and higher level, if I become the best of the best, then the money will follow and I'll be able to do this full time, sell beats for a living. And this is a thought that I had myself, but I started to realize there were producers who weren't nearly as talented as me or had that great of beats that were making far more money than me. And so I started to ask myself, why was this happening? Why was I so far behind? And I couldn't make more than $1,000 a month for my beats. The answer is that I was growing in the wrong direction. I was only focused on production skills, but I was neglecting the business side. And there's a skill to growing the business where you need to grow with your networking skills, your marketing skills, your sales skills, and I had none of those. And so if you were to imagine this analogy of trying to go to the gym and trying to progress with your upper body, but one arm is being worked out all the time and the other isn't. So you can curl 50 or 80 pounds with one arm, but you can only curl 10 or 20 pounds with the other. You would probably say this would lead to a disbalance in your muscle growth and probably a lot of other health complications, but that's exactly what you're doing when it comes to growing your business. You're only focused on making better beats and locking yourself in the basement and having that year like Kanye did, where he didn't go out and he just made beats. But you're not able to grow your business because you're one-dimensional, you're one-sided, and you really are complicating your goals when you should be balanced in a sense. So if that's you, then my encouragement would be to start to learn the other side of the business a lot sooner, because I got in way over my head, got screwed over on a ton of deals, all because I neglected the business side and I just didn't have that skill set. Lesson number two is stop consuming and start producing. And I don't mean producing more beats. What I mean is you need to watch where your attention goes, because the attention is the most valuable resource in the world. That's more than oil, more than data. It is hands down the most valuable resource. And on YouTube alone, there's over 114,000 years of content uploaded every single day. You have to think to yourself, there's got to be somebody who's watching this, otherwise people wouldn't be uploading. And when you look at your life, you're probably consuming a lot of social media because you're addicted to your phone. You're probably consuming a lot of TV in the evenings. The average is 3 hours a day. And you probably are consuming a lifestyle that's filled with online shopping. It could be shoes and video games as well. And so when you look at all of the things that we consume and all of the hours we put into it, compare that to what you're producing with your beat business. It's probably very, very lackluster in comparison. And this is a trap that I've fallen into so many times, where even when I quit my job in 2020, I had 16 hours a day to do whatever I wanted to. And that was not filled with producing for the most part. And if you think to yourself, I just need more time, I just need more energy, just think about what is siphoning off your time and siphoning off your energy, and you're probably just consuming way more than you need to. And so you'll be a lot happier if you ditch a lot of those things. I don't have social media on my phone, and I just don't really consume a lot of things. So that gives me all of this time, energy, and creativity to go and produce for my business, which actually leads to real fulfillment. And I just find myself getting lost in my work to the point where it's just really something that I enjoy every day. So if you find yourself where you're having depression, anxiety, you find yourself spending too much money, and you find the day ending and asking yourself, where did all the time go? Then you're probably doom scrolling and a lot of other things. So definitely stop consuming as much. You'll be a lot happier. You'll get to your goals a lot faster, and you'll be way more fulfilled. Lesson number 3 is that repetition is a prerequisite for success. And when I was growing up, I played basketball since the age of 10. It was something that I really had my whole identity around. And if you think about how many layups and free throws and sprints that I did, it was in the tens of thousands. And I got pretty good at it to where I was averaging over 20 points a game in high school, and I had the opportunity to get a scholarship to go to college. Now, when I got to college, I realized that I was not even close to being the best, and I actually pretty much rode the bench the rest of my basketball career. And the reason was not because I wasn't worse off, it was that they were that much better. And I remember specifically in a practice where someone was getting on me. I went and asked my teammate, what did I do wrong? And he said, you know what, you just haven't done this enough. And what that told me is that I had not put in the reps, and what I thought was a lot of work was actually almost nothing in comparison to what they were doing. So when you're trying to get in the top 1% of music producers, just realize that they're not doing 2x what you're doing. They're not doing 3x. They're probably doing 10 or 20x what you are doing on a day-by-day basis. And that doesn't mean they're just sitting around and producing more beats all day. That's obviously the easy part. They're probably marketing their business 4 hours a day while you're doing almost zero. So putting up that one post a week or just a few type beats and expecting your business to grow is not going to work in the end. So just realize when you're sleeping and when you're relaxing, there's another producer out there that is working hard to achieve their dreams, and you can't even begin to compare the amount of work that it takes to make this work and have an income comparable to that of a nice 9-to-5 job. There's a saying that I really like. I've heard from a couple of entrepreneurs, and it goes a little bit like this: the work works on you more than you work on it. And so what this means is that you're always becoming something more through your work. And since I'm a Christian, I know there's a verse in the Bible that says all work is profitable, essentially. So you may not see a direct result from the work you're doing now, but just realize that it's actually working on you so that you can become someone who's capable of doing more, having a higher skill level, and getting way more results down the road. This brings me to lesson number 4, which is that it's not supposed to be easy. So you're probably optimizing for the wrong thing. And what I mean by this is that there's 2 things you can optimize for. One is effectiveness and one is efficiency. You're probably opted for the latter, and you want to do the minimum amount of work to get the maximum amount of return. But when you optimize this way, it's simply going to be doing things the right way, but you may not even be focused on the right things in the first place. So you may be amazing at uploading YouTube videos. You may be great at graphic design. You may be amazing at making beats. So you're very efficient with your time, with your energy, and your output, but it's not very effective in getting you to your goals. Otherwise, you wouldn't be watching this video right now. Now, me, on the other hand, I optimize for effectiveness. And what this means is that I'm focused on only doing things that help me to reach my goal. And so when I played college basketball, there was people who would be in the gym shooting up 400 shots a day when I would only shoot 100 or 200 because I was basically getting the same result. But at the end of the day, by shooting twice as many shots, even though they only got 10% better, that put them on the court for 30 minutes a game while I was only on the court for 10 minutes. The same thing goes for your music production, where you may not be getting more than 5 or 10% more benefit by putting in twice the amount of work. But if you were to be 5 or 10% better at mixing, 5 or 10% better at marketing, or 5 or 10% better at sales, you would get twice the amount of sales because you are earning the business of the artist in the first place. Being mediocre is not enough anymore. You cannot be middle of the pack, lukewarm, and expect to see all of the results. There's a rule called the 20-80 rule, and basically it goes this way. There's 20% of people who are at the top that get 80% of the results, and there's 80% of people that are at the bottom that get 20% of the leftovers and scraps. The reason for this is that you cannot be mediocre. So if you find yourself just doing okay and you can't figure out why you haven't reached your goals, you're probably in that bottom 80%. And if you doubt you can get into that top 20%, that's what leads me to lesson number 5, which is that faith and doubt are the same things, but doubt is just faith in the opposite direction. If you have faith in yourself, it means that you believe you're going to reach your goal. If you have doubt, on the other hand, it means that you believe you're not going to reach your goal. To prove this, whenever you visit someone, whether it's by car, walking, or plane, or however you're getting there, you never tell them on the phone, well, I hope I get there, but I might get into an accident. Even though that's a real possibility, because let's face it, some planes end up going down and driving in a car is insane. I don't know if you've been out there lately, but I always almost get hit 3 times just driving through a parking lot. So it's reasonable to have doubt and not getting to your destination, yet no one ever speaks that way in their language because they have faith that they're going to reach it. You need to be the same way in your business. If you do not believe in your heart that you're actually going to reach your goals, you will not try your hardest, because that doubt is fueling your belief system to stop you from actually working 100% on what you already want to do. You need to watch what goes into your mind. You need to watch who you hang out around, because whoever is fueling that part of your brain that believes in an opportunity or doubts it is going to be a huge indicator of whether you're going to reach your goals or not. I had to change my entertainment choices. I had to change what jokes I laughed at. I had to change which people I hang around, because at the end of the day, I am trying to achieve big things as a music producer, and anyone who is going to hold me back from that or feel any part of doubt in my mind can't be around me. A lot of producers have that problem, and if you're one of the few that doesn't, that's what leads me to lesson number 6, which is that isolation kills. And one of the biggest reasons I see music producers not see success is that they really just are not in community with other producers who are successful. And this was me and myself included. Whenever I was trying to be a full-time producer back in 2018, I got 0 sales, and I was trying all of these different things. I had 20 different strategies. I was trying to stream my music, make NFTs into beats, chase placements, make sample packs, make drum kits, sell beats, do mixing and mastering. I was all over the place, and I would have avoided making so many errors if I'd have just talked to the right people. And this is what led me to a consultation with a producer I really still look up to a lot, which his name is Dylan Graham. And he has accomplished so much in the R&B space, and that's the space that I'm in today. In just 30 minutes of talking to him, he helped reshape my mindset when it came to what's possible selling beats, gave me strategy, tactics, and principles that helped out, and answered a lot of questions and myths that I believed that just simply weren't true. Because if you're in that isolation for a long time as a producer, you have all these ideas in your mind that are trying to get out of your subconscious and get into the real world, but they haven't been tested yet because they're in a vacuum tube. You need to communicate with people and share your ideas. And even if they tell you it's a bad idea or a good idea, either way is helpful, because not doing the wrong things is just as effective as doing the right things. And this is what leads me to lesson number 7, which I think is critical, which is that I don't believe in being self-made. This is a belief that a lot of people talk about, pulling themselves up by the bootstraps. Nobody helped them out and they got there on their own. But this is a complete lie, because last time I checked, those people didn't teach themselves how to read. They didn't teach themselves how to tie their shoes, and they didn't learn how to drive a car without seeing someone else model that behavior. Everything that you learn in life, everything that you've become, is the product of other people teaching you how to do something, whether that's verbal or nonverbal. You need to unlearn that lie that people are self-made. No one is self-made. You just need to realize that you can learn from people being failures and you can learn from people being successful. But if you're uncoachable, you won't learn anything. You'll make all the mistakes on your own, and you'll find yourself in a terrible position, wasting years off of your life that you can't get back, like I did. Now, I am in a good position as a producer now. I make $1,500 every custom beat that I make, and I have an established business, but it didn't happen overnight. I had to pay so many mentors and coaches and consultants along the way that helped me to avoid a lot of pitfalls and undo a lot of mistakes that I already made. I had to work on my skill development because I knew the ratio of working hard times having a high skill level equals a lot of income. If you don't know that ratio yet, just realize that you can have the right strategy but work very little on it and get almost no output. You can also work really hard on the wrong strategy and make very little money as well. So you have to have both if you want to be successful in the long run as a music producer. One of the biggest things I learned in this area was leverage. And you see a lot of producers that are trying to sell 1,000 beats for $30 a month, and they're only selling about 5, 10, or 15, which leaves them with some good side passive income, but it doesn't allow them to quit their jobs, and they keep fueling a machine that's not working for them and a strategy that is not going to lead to being successful. Now, while I know successful producers on YouTube, I didn't go that direction, and I chose a different path where I sold directly to artists, and I sell my beats for $1,000 or more, making it a high leverage opportunity even though I only get a few sales every month. I call that strategy that I came up with the rapid sales system. So if you're interested in learning more about that, you can always book a call with me for free. The link is in the description or pinned comment. Lesson number 8 is don't take advice from people who aren't where you want to be in life. This is obvious. You've heard this before, but you don't practice it because it's built into your psychology to go and ask the people closest to you for advice on things that don't make sense. You don't ask your siblings or your parents for health advice. You ask a doctor, and the reason is because they have expertise in that area. But you don't apply that when it comes to being successful as an online producer. You're afraid of disappointing people who are giving you advice that you already know is bad, and yet you still do it. If that's you, you're not alone, and this is something that I did for a long time, and it took a long time to break out of this habit because you have to make a decision where you want to be in life. Do you actually want to be successful, or do you want to think and talk about being successful? Do you want to avoid failure, or do you want to avoid losing out on relationships because you're not taking someone's advice? You have to make a decision at the end of the day, and the word decision comes from a Latin root word called desiderio, which means to cut off. You need to completely uproot that thought process and cut it off. Otherwise, it's going to linger and really nag at you for years and years of your life. So if you want to be a full-time producer, make sure you get the right guidance on that, because otherwise it's like asking Taylor Swift how to make your drums knock harder. Let's dive into lesson number 9, which is stop using money to make more money. And what I mean by that is investing in promotions, investing into advertisements. And I've spent over 5 figures investing into promotion and advertisements, and I have seen an exact $0 return because even on the ads that actually worked, I was just making up for all the losses that I had gotten from the ones that didn't. Now, while promotions and ads can be a great way to grow your business, they're not for you. And even if you have ROI'd on an ad before, you're not running any ads right now because it doesn't make you money. I'm not saying it's impossible, and I'm not saying it's bad, but it's an expensive experiment at the end of the day that really just turns into gambling at a certain point because you do not have the skill set that is high enough to make money from ads. And even if you do, you don't have the budget to actually make it work. What you should do instead is invest into personal development and invest into learning skill sets. This is what I did. I invested into a lot of alternative education so that I could learn skills in sales, learn skills in marketing, and that way I was able to build my business up because I'd become a more skilled individual that knew how to do this for $0 at all. $0 in, thousands of dollars out, while you're probably spending hundreds of not thousands of dollars a year on advertisements that don't earn you a return. So stop playing the lottery and start investing into personally developing yourself. And the final lesson, lesson number 10, is that subtraction is always better than addition. At the end of the day, less is just more. And whenever you're mixing something, if you've been to mixing school, there's something called additive EQ and subtractive EQ. They always tell you to do the subtractive EQ first, because if you start adding to something that's already off, it's just going to multiply what's wrong with the beat or with the song. But subtractive EQ takes out all of those nasty frequencies so that you're only left with a good base to build off of. And that proves my point that you really don't need a lot of things to get going, but you're probably not living that way when it comes to building your music business. You're probably trying to stream your beats. You're trying to do mixing and mastering. You're trying to produce customs and sell leases and build on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram and do email marketing and ads on top of it. We're forgetting that we're limited as human beings, and you're probably not maxed out in any one of those categories. So those are the 10 lessons I've learned, and hopefully that helps you to avoid all of those potholes that I fell into along the way. And if you're a music producer who's already serious, already talented, but you find that your bank account is not filling up even though you're a skilled producer, you probably need a better system to sell beats. You've tried YouTube, you've tried TikTok, you've tried running ads, and you've tried placements, but let's face it, none of those have worked for you, but you just don't have an alternative. That's why I use what's called the rapid sales system, which involves finding artists on Instagram and messaging them, getting on calls with artists to sell them beats for $1,000 or more. I average selling about 1 beat a week, so this allows me to make an average of $1,000 every week just selling beats without a label and without having a YouTube type beat channel. You've been working tirelessly on your business without much results back from it, and you're plateaued under $2,000 a month from beats. This is a great way to add an extra $1,000 to $4,000 a month in good beat income for your business. I've helped dozens of producers to get their first $1,000 week online. So I want to invite you to hop onto a roadmap call for free with me where I can dissect your business, give you free tips, and see if one-on-one help would even be a good fit with your business and if this strategy would be good to install into your business. So if you want to meet with me, we can hop onto a free call and see if this is a good fit for you or not. The link is in the pinned comment or the description, so you can go and lock it in on my calendar and I will talk with you soon. Make sure you watch this video next if you want to grow your music business, and I will see you in the next one.